Yes, I'm 18, and like Tiara, like her story, I have a very similar story. I began to question God at a young age, and I was like, is he really real? And if he is, how can I get to know him? How can I live a better lifestyle? Because I was out here in these streets doing just things that you would look at me, you would be like, oh, she wasn't addicted to pornography. She didn't masturbate. No, honey, I did it. And I'm bold and I'm courageous with that because God's delivered me and he has set me free. And so that no longer defines who I am. That no longer defines me. And so today I want to talk about the process to purity. Now, this is the most important thing in my life because it taught me everything that I know. And you might hear purity and you might think sex. Like the first thing you hear when you hear purity, you might think clean, you might think sex, you might think water, like purifying water. But I think life. I think lifestyle. I think purpose. And so that's why the name of this conference is Purity on Purpose. Because we all have a purpose and we need to develop a pure heart and a clean heart. And so, let's get started. That's me. That was me. That was me when I was about 15 years old, and I was in the worst place in my entire life. So, I want to ask you guys, what does it look like I'm feeling in this picture? I want some answers. And be honest. You can say ugly, I don't care. Be honest. Ugly, okay, well, you're not getting a gift card. Thanks so much. Disappointed, that's so true.
You look mad.
I look mad.
Like you kind of crazy, you like.
I mean, I was ready, girl. I was ready. Go ahead.
Depressed.
Depressed, absolutely.
You look a little lost, like you're lost.
Yeah. Kim?
Shattered.
Shattered, man. Yep, there you go, the glass right there. Those are all so true. And, man, I just look at that and I'm like, I want to cry right now because I was at my lowest point in my life. And I did not feel like I could get through this point. I didn't feel like I could conquer the losing friendships and the finances. Like, I didn't have any money. I mean, when you're 15, you're pretty much broke. So I was depressed because I felt like I didn't have money for my future. I didn't feel like what can I do right now other than go to school and go home? What could I do with my life? And I was absolutely broken. I was so confused. And, the picture kind of speaks for itself. And so the process means, because we're talking about the process to purity, so what the process means is, process is a series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end. So we're in this process and we're looking to achieve something in the end. And what is that thing? My thing is heaven. I want to go to heaven when I die, because we're all going to die one day. We're not going to be sitting at Purity on Purpose conferences all our lives. We're going to die, and we have to. And I know that it sucks thinking about it and it hurts, but there's going to come a time when you're just going to go. And so the process means that you're trying to get to a particular end. And you're reaching this goal. And my goal is to get to heaven. What is your goal? What are some of your goals? I mean, obviously, well, don't say you want to get to heaven, because I'm sure we don't want to go to hell and stuff. But what is your goal? So if you were to begin in purity, what would your goal be with living a pure lifestyle? How about you? You've been quiet. You have anything?
Just to gain self-confidence.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That's big. Yeah.
I will want to forgive people. I know forgiveness is a really big thing.
That's huge. Forgiveness. You have to do that to develop. Yeah, so that's really good. You have to do all of those things to get to where you need to be. And so this day, I began to finally question my why in life. Because before I didn't really care. Before I was just like, okay, I'll go to school, I'll do everything that the normal kids do. But then I was like, well, but why am I really living? And why am I really here? And, you know, as you can see, I was in a different place in my life. I don't ever dress like that anymore, ever. But I've been delivered, hallelujah. Because, I mean, the cleavage is just popping. But I am so grateful because this is the point in my life where I took my brokenness to battle. And it was a choice. I made that a choice. I either had the decision to be broken and sit in that depression that you just saw and sit in that confusion and sit in that place where I was like, I don't even know what to do anymore, or I could battle. I could take that energy and put it into something that is greater than myself. And I could actually try to act on becoming a better person, not only for myself, but for other people. Some of us could be selfish. We could be really selfish. And actually, it's interesting because my family and I were throwing a party for my mom, and my brother was like, he was just telling me, like, you need to be more selfless, because I was planning for this conference. This is a true story. I was planning for this conference. This was like a week ago. And he's like, you need to become a little bit more selfless. And I was planning for my conference. I was like, I have a conference to plan for. I don't care. And that is so selfish of me. Are you kidding me? My mom turned 50. Yeah. And I'm just like, whatever. No, we need to celebrate her life. So that's just what we're going to do. And so from the brokenness to battle, I remember I was in the car with my mom one day, and I said, Mom, I'm going to have sex in college. And she goes, oh, okay. Why? And then I was like, because I want to, because everybody else is doing it, because when I get to college, you know, it's just the normal thing to do. And she just asked me that one question, why? And I didn't have an answer for her other than that everybody else is doing it. And then I took that question and I took that energy and I chose to battle. I chose to act on that why, act on that question. And so that act was, I asked God why. And then I felt like I got no reply from him. And so that was so discouraging. I was like, God, I'm already trying to figure you out. I'm already trying to ask you all these questions, like, are you even real? And you're not answering me. Like, hello, I'm over here trying. And so I found my solution. My solution was attention. And I just want to read this to you guys because this is actually from a guy that I used to talk to. This is a real message from a guy I used to talk to. So it says, I played the game. Now the game, I'm sure y'all guys know, the game is like the 2K and the PlayStation stuff. They call it the game. You guys don't call it like 2K, which is really weird. So, and if you text me, I'll probably die or lose because you're my new interest. I'll literally stop everything I do just to get back to you. And sometimes I even just turn off the game and lay there. And my mom's like, why is the TV off? You're not watching anything. You're just something that's much more than you can imagine. Maybe someday you'll understand, or maybe my care and my pedestal for you is just too high that you'll never understand because you're just IDK. You're something words will never be able to define, and I just can't ever get you out of my head. If we don't talk for days or hours, don't mean anything. You're on my mind. I look at your Facebook, I smile. I see your Instagram, I grin. I see your Snap, I laugh. I see your YouTube, I admire. There's so much about you that's in my heart. Isn't that sweet? Don't you guys just want to say, oh, I wish somebody would tell me that. Oh, that's just so beautiful. But no, actually, it's just the opposite because this took my attention away from everything that I needed to do in life. I mean, this message alone, I got so caught up in this message for like a whole year that I was pursuing this dude. And you're not supposed, if you're a young lady in here or a woman, you're not supposed to pursue a man. He comes to you. You don't go up to a man and tell him you're fine. No, don't do it. And even if somebody says, well, just go ask him for his number, don't. Like, let him come to you because it's so worth it in the end. And so with this message, I noticed that I was getting so much attention from this guy, and the attention was the flirting and the sending inappropriate pictures and the texting back and forth, and we even sent like little letters through the mail. And so we weren't even dating. This wasn't even my boyfriend. He was just some guy I was talking to. I know you guys know that talking stage. Yeah. And, well, sometimes we don't even call them our friend. We're just like, I'm talking to them. What does that mean? Yeah, wait, let's pause for a second. Somebody tell me what talking means. Can somebody define that for me? See, look, y'all confused. You don't even know. So I was in the talking stage with this guy, and we were flirting, we were sending pictures, we were sexting. I know you guys know about that. Don't act like you don't. And the body language, even the things that I showed him that I was interested in these words that he was saying to me, and so that allowed him to go further with the pursuit. That allowed him to say, oh, okay, I reeled her in a little bit. I got her just a little bit, and because I gave into that, I said, well, why do you like my smile? And, well, why do you like the way that you see me on YouTube? Like, what do I look like exactly so I can please you even more? And so that's when I stepped into lust, and that's when I stepped into that mindset that I felt like, well, this is the way that I could keep him, because I was afraid of commitment. And I was afraid of really giving my heart because I knew what was right from wrong. We're very smart people. We know what's right versus what's wrong. It's just that choice. It's just that choice of, are we going to go from the brokenness to the battle, or are we just going to stay broken? And so what all these things did was lead to sex. That's all it did. Even though I'm still a virgin, thank you, Lord. But these things like flirting, sexting, sending pics, and all of that stuff, it leads to sex. It has an end point, and you have to be careful at how you respond to these type of messages, because I'm sure everybody in this room has gotten a message like this, like, you're so beautiful, even if you have a boyfriend. Now, I'm not going to, or a girlfriend, I'm not going to tell you to go break up with your person, but I'm going to say, think about how, is it really building you up? Is it really making you a better person? Are you really living in your purpose? Do you think that this is beneficial to your lifestyle? And so, yeah, you guys heard of friends with benefits?
Yeah, of course.
Listen, now, I've had one relationship in my whole life. Like, I dated one guy, and low-key, our first date was here, upstairs. That's embarrassing, but, yeah, so I've had one boyfriend in my whole life, and all the other guys were, like, friends with benefits. We didn't have we didn't have a title or anything. We were just kicking it, I guess, Netflix and chilling. And so those are the type of things that led me into temptation. Doesn't that look really good? Yeah. Right? I'm telling you. Actually, we have cake in the back if y'all want some. So this is when temptation hit me. When I started getting those messages, when I started to give these guys the attention, temptation came. So let's say that you are on a diet, right? And you go to a restaurant with your friend, and they order some cake or whatever, some stuff that looks like that. And they're like, have a piece. And you're like, well, I'm on a diet. Like, no, thank you. I don't really want it. It's okay. And they insist. They're like, no, go ahead. It's good. It's good for you. It tastes amazing. And they talk about how the chocolate is dripping off, and they're just explaining it. When you already told them, like, no, I don't want it because I'm on a diet. And so you eat it, and you go home, and you're just regretful. And you're like, man, you're starting to feel like your stomach burning and stuff because you know that you shouldn't have eaten that cake because you were on a diet. And so that's exactly what temptation is. I let those words of that young man tempt me into thinking that it was something good because he was telling me about myself, and I loved the attention of that. And I was so fragile and insecure, and I was uncertain that I gave into it. And so, like, just if you eat that cake, you're like, I did it, but now I'm like, you were uncertain and you were undecided. But you have to be decided in purity, especially, because if you're not, you'll say, I'll eat all the cake. If you're not decided, if you don't make that decision and say, I'm not going to do it. And so What do I look like here? I need some answers. Trying too hard. Yes. What else? Mind you, I was like 14 here. Listen, I know. I know, yeah. It's a serious thing. What else? What do I look like? Go ahead. Fast. Ooh, she went there. Yeah, that's true though. What else? One more. I'm trying to get attention. Yeah. So all these things are good. That's so true. And when I look at this picture, I kind of sort of think of like Nicki Minaj and Cardi B, just like a really tiny version with no butt, right? So, and when you think of Cardi B and all these people that you listen to on the radio and all these people that you look up to, like Kim Kardashian and these crazy shows that Tiara was talking about, do you think that's a good example? Would you want to look up to a girl that looks like that with colored hair and trying too hard and looks fast? Do you want to look up to a person like that? Even though you do it every day. You're listening to their music, you're supporting them. You are giving into this temptation that they're putting out on the radio and on the internet. Now, no judgment. I mean, it's some lit music. Bodak Yellow? I mean, hey. But I'm not going to like say the lyrics or anything. But yeah. But in this picture, I gave in. This is a picture of me when I gave into temptation because God didn't answer me. As we said earlier, the why. God didn't answer my question. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm just going to talk to this guy. I'm going to do whatever I want. And that's where it got me. It got me to a place where I was so into makeup. I was so into clothes because that was my outer. That's all my physical attributes. That I was like, okay, so if people see me and they just give me a bunch of compliments and they shower me with compliments, I'll feel confident. I'll feel better, you know, and it gives me validation because I felt like I couldn't get it from anywhere else. And so I got stuck. A lot of us get stuck here because once we ask God why and he doesn't answer us, we're like, okay, well, he didn't answer. I tried. Oh, well, bye. But no, you have to keep going because look at me now. If I were to just stay there, I wouldn't be here. I would not be speaking to you guys right now because that's what you call a stronghold. It's when you're like addicted to something and you don't want to let it go because it just feels so good. I was getting so much attention at that time in my life, and now nobody calls me, but that's okay. I'm just kidding. And so I got fulfilled with the attention and the compliments, and I thought I was so ready to have sex, guys. I thought I was so ready. If I had sex, man, I would have been so broken. Listen, I'm not, okay. I could have been like a prostitute if I went through with this. I would have been on the streets somewhere because I was getting that attention from other people and I was getting that validation from other people, and I thought that was my confidence. That's where my help was coming from. And so I didn't see an issue in it. I thought I was good. I thought I was okay. And look at how high that slit is. Are you joking? But the point is first of all, we have to dress modestly. We can't just be out here wearing anything because it really shows your spirit and your heart. And so if you want to be pursued by someone, well, ladies especially, if you want to be pursued by a man, and if young men, you are looking to pursue a woman, she should not look like this. I'm telling you, if you want a woman of God, a woman that is going to help you grow and help you develop as a person, then she can't look like that. She needs to be dressed, she needs to be covered up, she needs to be modest, and she needs to be helping you in your purpose because that's what purity is about. It's about building, it's about lifting up. So yeah, I thought I was so ready for sex, but I really wasn't. So there's the picture again, and I'm going to tell you why you aren't ready for sex. Because number one, sex is so much bigger. You don't understand the significance of what sex really, truly is. You know, we see all this stuff on the TV and on social media of 50 Shades even. If you've seen 50 Shades of Grey, I've never seen it, don't want to. But if you've seen that movie, it's like just a bunch of sex mess, basically. And that's not what we need to be looking at. And I want to tell you guys today that sex is so much bigger. And psychologically, researchers examined the mental health associations of hookup sex reported that participants who were not depressed before showed more depressive symptoms and loneliness after engaging in casual sex. So what does that tell you? You were good before. You were on the right track. You were doing all right with your life. And then you wanted to have sex, or you had that desire, or somebody tempted you, and you were like, okay, I'll do it. And don't feel bad if you've had sex already. I'm not trying to condemn you, just convict you. Because if the studies show that the people that had sex were more depressed than before, it just shows us that there's so much worth in waiting. That alone will have me waiting all my life for the right person. Because I'm not trying to be depressed. I'm not trying to go back to that place that I was at before. And so psychologically and emotionally, it really does something. Because in sex, there's a physical connection. There is a union that is being created when you are having sex. And so, number 2, sex requires maturity. How many of you guys think you're ready for sex and that you're mature and all that? Raise your hand. Oh, nobody. Good. So, because sex requires maturity, you have to be mature. You have to be in a good, well place that you're like, okay, I know myself. I know why I was created. I know why I'm here on earth. And so, maybe when I get married, because this is all about waiting until marriage, I can have sex and I'm ready now. But I'm going to tell you guys that I'm not even mature enough to have sex right now. I might look it, I might sound it, but I'm not ready. I'm not. I have growing to do. I have wholeness to pursue, and I have a God that I need to serve before I get with my husband, because a union in a marriage is a helpmeet. You get married for help. You get married to grow. You get married to develop. And so it's more than just a physical thing, which we see on social media every day. So that's why it gets difficult. The third reason why you aren't ready is because there are soul ties that you are not ready for. You're not necessarily ready to break those. You don't know how to break those. You don't even know what a soul tie is. And so I want to demonstrate really quick what a soul tie looks like. All right, can somebody come help me? Thank you. So, I'm actually going to do it like, can you guys see if I put it here?
No, Grace.
You can?
You need to hold it up.
Hold it up? Okay. Can you just hold this? Okay, so thank you. I hope your nails. So, we have some bath salt here, but this represents you, okay? This will represent the girls, this will represent the guys. And so, when you're having sex, the guy, he's pouring his life, he's pouring his emotions, he's pouring his past mistakes, he's pouring his past exes, he's pouring his every emotion and everything into your life, right? And then you have the female, and she's pouring her past exes, her past relationships, her past mistakes, everything that is in her emotions, those things that she doesn't know how to deal with. Okay, so now you can't separate that. Can you guys separate that? Here, let me see. Thank you so much. Here, try to separate this for me. Okay, try to separate that.
Gracie. You got it.
Smells good.
It does smell good. Oh, is it difficult? Is it hard? Okay. Here, try to separate this for me. Now don't drop it though. Don't. Oh wow. It's not possible? She's not able. Do you see this?
Don't talk to me.
You guys, this represents you having sex with every single person. You're becoming one with them, and you're not able to separate this. And so that is why we need to protect our gates. Now I want you to say Repeat this after me. Purity begins with your gates.
Purity begins with your gates.
Good. Okay. So, microphone. Sorry, forgot. So purity begins with your gates. Don't you see how beautiful this gate looks? It's like, it's royal. It looks like there's someone serious that lives behind those gates. And they're really, a gate is so you can protect something that is of value, that is purposeful, that you see is worthy and worth it. And so that's exactly how we have to treat our lives. We have to say, okay, I need to protect it with a gate because I'm worth it. I'm worthy. I'm valuable. And if we don't do that, we're going to let anybody through. And by protecting your gates, that means protecting your heart, putting a guard on your heart, and not letting those guys or those girls late at night say, well, what are you wearing right now? Or like Sierra was saying, you know, what you looking like? Like, show me something. Don't show them anything, guys. Protect those gates because it comes at night. Like, it comes every part of the day, but, you know, it'd be hard at night. I just, you know. So, your gates start with your eyes. And the way that you can protect your eye gates is by not watching those TV shows that are, like, just not a good example. I'm sure you guys know what I mean. And not looking at porn. So those are some ways that you can stay focused with your eye gates. And then with your ears, music. You have to listen to the right music. I remember a time in my life when I hated worship music. I hated praise music and everything that had to do with God. And I was going to church. I was in church. But I hated it because it was just like, ugh. Like, I don't want to hear about God. Ew. And now I'm like, I'm all here for worship. I'm all here to surrendering to Christ because he did it all for me. I would not be here without him. And your mouth, you have to protect what you are saying. Your words have power, but they are power. What you're saying is so valuable and it's so powerful. And so then I got to the point where I had to surrender to Christ. And I said, okay, God, I obey you finally. I surrender to you. This was me in church like about 2 years ago or so. And because I was tired. If you remember like one of the first slides, I was depressed. You guys said I looked broken. You said I looked shattered. You said I looked terrible, right? Somebody said ugly. And I did. I was in a gross place in my life, and I just didn't want to go on. But through the battling, because I chose to battle at a young age and at an early age, through that, I got to this place of surrender. And so when you know that you're at a place of surrender, you want to attain wisdom. You want to come to conferences like this to get better. You want to put it in action, you know. And, you know, if you're not, you know that you're not at that place when you were like me and you were like, I don't want to hear worship music. I hate that. Ew. Because I was in that place where I was like, I just want to do what I want to do. I don't want anybody telling me anything. And so then I became selfless and I became a fighter and I began to serve other people before myself and I began to pray and I began to feed my soul with the Bible and the Word of God, even if I didn't know if God was watching me or if he was really there for me. But that's the process. You have to get to that point where you're like, okay, now I hear God responding, which is sometimes still hard for me. I'm like, hello, I need to know this. And sometimes God will take a lot longer than I need him to on some things. But it's a process. Don't think that it's going to be a perfect thing. And so to get to this place, you need to lock your gates. We talked about purity begins with your gates, but now you need to lock it. Because what if that gate is unlocked? Then there's really no point. It's just a gate up there. But then if a burglar comes, they can just open that gate and get right through. It's just like our hearts and our lives. Lock your heart. Put your heart on lock so that nobody could get through that is toxic to you, that is unworthy to have you, that is that's maybe even a cheater. I got cheated on by my first and only boyfriend because I didn't lock my heart. I didn't lock my soul and my spirit. He wasn't worth that. he wasn't worth enough to cheat on me. I'm so valuable. I was like that mansion behind that house, or behind that gate. And so that's what we all need to realize. I'm not the only valuable one in this room. We're all so valuable. We all have so much purpose. We all have so much to offer to somebody else, and we need to lock our gates. And a way that you could do that is, number one, get off social media. I got off social media for 1 whole year, like a whole one. That was the most difficult decision of my life. I cried like every day. I was in like 8th grade, but I was like, oh no, like where are my friends? I want to see everybody's selfies and stuff, and I want to post, because that's where I was getting my attention, through my selfies and through those pictures that I was posting. And so I had to force myself to get off of social media because it was so toxic to me. And another way that you can lock your gates is through focus. You have to keep your focus, otherwise you're going to veer off. You're going to get on the wrong track. And another way that you could do that is seek for answers. Ask God. Ask him some questions. Come up to me after this conference, or Weathersby or Miss Burton, and say, I don't know how to deal with this. Could you help me? Do you have an answer for me? I'm here for you. I'm not going to bite. So ask for those answers. Seek and you will find, is what the Word of God says. And I questioned everything that I did. Everything was measured with, is this clean or is this unclean? So the way I was dressing, the speech, my mouth, and what I was listening to and watching, I measured that as to if it was the right thing that I was supposed to do, and most of the time it wasn't. So I tried to better that. And lastly, when you do good, when you do good, you get good. So just think about what you're doing now. Is it good? Is it pure? Is it clean? Is it holy? Is it righteous? Is it acceptable even to you? Or is it toxic? Is it burdening? Is it impure? You have to think about these things. And when you do good, you get good. So God will reward you. God is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. I'm telling you, he will reward you. I would not be here today if he did not give me that reward, because I was trying. It's those questions that you ask after the conference. It's the little things. You don't have to be saying try. Go do it. Go put it into action. So, Period on Purpose Conference 2018 gives you the opportunity to verbalize and act out your commitment to living a pure lifestyle, which is dedicated to developing a whole, healed heart despite whatever pressuring life situations you are faced with. Remember, speak and live by this pledge. So a pledge to purity. And we're all going to say this together. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, and say your name. I, Gracelyn Mason, commit to doing my best and living a pure lifestyle. When I am faced with temptation, I will run. And when I take interest in someone, I will use wisdom. When I feel like giving up my body due to sexual urge, I will remember how valuable my purpose and body are and treat it with care. When I feel like my thoughts are not pure, I will evaluate my heart. I pledge to commit, try, dedicate, and give my entire life to a pure heart and a purposeful lifestyle. Even when it's hard, it is possible. Give yourselves a round of applause, because you guys are amazing for your journey. And if you guys find at night or whatever that you're struggling, send me a DM. This is my social media right here. Send me a message.
Send her a message.
Yes. Me should know. She'd be hitting me up every hour. So I'm just kidding.
Whatever.
So I put together a free 4-week course for you guys. So you guys can leave with something that you won't feel like you're alone in this, because I've been through it, done that. It's hard, okay? And so through my podcast and blog that are coming out in March, it's called Unique Utterances. I want to make guys. So it's learning how to progress in purity. This was the process to purity. Now we're progressing in purity. Now we're going to put this thing into action. Now,
And I know Gracelyn, I was previously her assistant principal. I wear a lot of different hats, but I definitely have a heart, as you can see by my profession, to pour into the lives of young people. Another hat that I wear, I'm a small business owner of a company called Lead One LLC that my wife and I started in 2013 because we had a passion to equip and empower the next generation. A lot of times in our world, people are waiting for a degree or waiting for a title to say they're a leader. We believe that each and every one of you in this room today possess the qualities to be a leader today. So before the titles come, before the positions come, before the promotion comes, you can, and God wants you to be a leader within your sphere of influence right now. So whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior in high school, in your job, wherever God has you, He has you there for this season for a reason. So my passion today is to kind of share my testimony and share my journey to help you know that it's possible to break the cycle. I believe that each and every one of us in this room have what I like to call a generational curse. There is something that you've experienced, that your parents have experienced, your grandparents experienced, that till today you're struggling with. For me, it was domestic violence and absentee fatherhood. I grew up on the west side of Chicago, and in that environment, I was always being exposed to those unhealthy attributes. Many of my friends growing up grew up without fathers like me. So therefore, it's hard to replicate and hard to emulate what you've never seen. So therefore, one of my passions is to travel the country, speaking at conferences and doing workshops like this to help young men and young women know that even though you may come from a current season of brokenness, that God can heal you, not just for the sake of healing you, but He wants to heal you because He wants to then help you and prepare you to heal somebody else. So let me just kind of start at the beginning. So therefore, Dr. Stephen Covey has a quote that he says, one of his 8 attributes of leadership is to begin with the end in mind. And I remember at the age of 12 years old, my youth pastor sat me down, he sat the whole youth group down, and he was like, I want you to make a list. He was like, a list of what? And he said, I want you to make a list of the attributes and the qualities and the characteristics you're looking for in a future wife. Notice I'm 12, so I'm like, wife? I'm still trying to get a girlfriend. I'm talking wife. But he had enough vision and foresight to say, if I can put in their minds what they're looking for in a wife, it will then dictate what they settle or don't settle for in a girlfriend.
Right.
Does that make sense? So I believe that one of the things I always ask young people whenever I travel is, what are you even looking for? Because if you know what you're looking for, you know what you won't settle for.
Yeah.
So therefore, one of the pieces of homework, and yes, I'm an educator, so you will have homework, but one of the things that I want you to really take time to think of is, what do I like? What attracts me? And let it be so much more than just physical, trust me. What attracts me? What draws me to whatever person God has for me? Another thing that my youth pastor told me at the age of 12 was, start praying for your future wife.
Yes.
And once again, at 12, it made no sense. But now that I'm experiencing, in June 18th, will be 13 years of marriage to my queen. I bless God that He had enough vision to have me praying for her at 12 when I never even knew her. And one of the magical days that sticks out in my mind is January 20th, 2002 at 2 p.m. That was the day I met her. The first day I ever set eyes on her. And on a side note, where you find her, fellas, notice I said find.
Yeah.
She should not find you.
Right.
But where you find her will determine what you get. We met at a Christian leadership conference in McCormick Place downtown. I was a junior in college, she was a sophomore in college. And I remember like yesterday, I going back to the hotel room at the conference, and it was like 3 in the morning. And I'm telling my best friend, I met her. He's like, who, man, who? And I was like, I met her, I met wifey. He was like, dude, we in college, what are you talking about wifey? I just knew. You know how they say when you know, you know? There was no doubt in my mind, I knew. 3 years of dating, then we got married. So I say that to say, if you know what you're shooting for, if you know what the end game is, then the steps along the way, though still frustrating, will actually make sense. Does that make sense? So when you begin with the end in mind and you start your homework on what attributes you're looking for, then the flip question is, do you have the attributes that they might be looking for? So many times we worry about what they're bringing to the table. What are you bringing to the table? You can't say, I want a girl with straight A's and you got straight C's.
Listen, that's so true.
Right? You can't say, I want a girl who, you know, has her own this and has her own that, but then she got to come pick you up. I'm a little old school with mine, so I just believe there's a right way to go about doing things. But once again, that's a generational curse that some of you even sitting right here saying, well, I've never seen that reflected in my environment. No one holds open doors where I come from. People don't, you know, we go Dutch, no one pays, you know, so like little things that may be trivial right now, but as you grow and mature, they'll be much more foundational to what God has for you. So once again, I know you're young, you're in high school, and you're like, man, this is so far down the road, but it's really not. And the one thing I want you to realize is, if you don't make the appropriate decisions now, that's just additional baggage that you'll carry in when you do meet. And the last thing you want is to meet the boy or the girl of your dreams, and you're not in a position to take advantage of it. The last thing you want to feel is regret to say, wow, I saw the boy of my dreams, but now I'm embarrassed because I didn't make the decisions along the way. And you've heard time and time again from our two phenomenal speakers that came before me, God can restore. God can renew. So we're not saying here be perfect at this conference, but I am saying be intentional. You must be intentional because God has a destiny for each and every one of you. He has things that he wants you to aspire to do. He has places that he wants you to aspire to go. But if you don't know what the end game is, you'll just kind of take anything that comes your way. You'll date anybody that comes your way. You'll jump at any opportunity that comes your way because you don't know where you're going. Another thing that jumps out when I go speak places is, you know, if you're ever around me for more than 5 minutes, you'll hear me say the queen, the queen, the queen. That's what I call my wife. She's the queen. That's because I'm a licensed minister, but I'm not a pastor. So people say, oh, that's first lady. I say, no, that's the queen. That's the queen, you know? So, but because I was taught to treat her as such, therefore it's by reflection. As I treat her as a queen, she has no problem treating me as the king of my household. But once again, as a man, you know, I was always taught, we're the thermostat in the room, if that makes sense. If it was too cold in here, you wouldn't use a thermometer. You would use the thermostat. You would go to the thermostat and change the temperature in the room. As men, we are in control of the environment around us. I'm not saying ladies can't play their part, but God has ordained us as men, gentlemen. And I say this because a lot of times, ladies, if you don't know what a man is supposed to do, then you'll find yourself trying to do your role and his. And a lot of relationships are broken because of that. A lot of marriages don't make it because of that, because it was never reflected for you what a man should be doing. So for example, every man has a question burning deep down inside of him that says, do I have what it takes? You fill in the blank. Every day a man is asking himself, do I have what it takes? Do I have what it takes to get this job? Do I have what it takes to provide for my family? Do I have what it takes to protect my family? And a lot of times as men, we look for those answers in all the wrong places. So when it comes to purity, a lot of times as men, we look to women to validate our question. Do I have what it takes? And if I date girl after girl after girl after girl, and I get the feedback, we talked about it already today, everyone's longing for feedback. Everyone's longing for approval. Men, we're no different. We're longing to get an answer. Yes, you are strong. Yes, you are confident. Yes, you are powerful. And that's where we get our self-esteem from. Where on the flip side, every woman is asking the question, am I worth fighting for? Men want to know, do I have what it takes? Women want to know, am I worth fighting for? So that's why I used to blow my mind in high school. You would have this brilliant girl, beautiful girl, date the dumbest boy in the school, but he was a tough guy. So that good girl, that sweet girl settled for that dumb tough guy because he told her in so many words, you're worth fighting for and I'll protect you. Even though he can only protect her physically and not spiritually and emotionally, that was enough for her. So some of you may be in this room today and you're like, you know what? I didn't even know I was finding myself settling for that. I was settling for physical protection and left myself wide open spiritually and emotionally. And some guys, you might be wrecking your brain like I was in high school, like, hey, I'm trying to be this gentleman that my youth pastor keep telling me that one day the girls are going to appreciate. And I was getting mad because I'm like, hey, I'm doing what the word is saying. I'm doing what my youth pastor is saying, and I'm not getting no love. None. You can picture it, high school as a freshman, I was 5'5", 98 pounds as a freshman in high school. By senior year, I was about 5'11", 165. So the Lord was good over 4 years. But I was always known as that good guy, that nice guy, that church guy, you know, in youth group, in Bible study, leading Bible study. In college, I had a chance to travel the world to Japan, South Africa, London, singing on different tours and things like that. I say all that to say God used all that journey to prepare me for what I'm doing today. To tell people, you can do it God's way, and he will go above and beyond and bless you more than you could ever imagine. So if you're sitting here today and you're struggling, because you're like, man, I'm trying to do it God's way, but I don't see enough examples of the payoff. I don't see enough examples of if I do it God's way, can he and will he keep me? But I'm believing that he will keep those who want to be kept. You got to do your part. And a lot of times, unfortunately, it's not very popular in our society today. It's not. Being virtuous, being whole, being pure. You know, me and my buddies, we have the same. How many of you ever heard the story of Joseph in the Bible? Genesis 39. One of the things I love about that story is it says that he asked the question, basically, just to give you the very abbreviated version. He was a man who was following God, sold into slavery by his brothers, and then God used that in the midst of that to make him basically second in line to the Pharaoh, eventually. But in that process, he was tempted by Potiphar's wife, and he asked a question that I think is critical to our conference today. He said, how can I do such a thing and sin against God? Joseph understood that what I do to another person ultimately is a reflection of my relationship with God. So when you're in a position or you've allowed yourself to be in a position that's compromising to your walk, you're on the phone late at night, or you're on that date and you're cuddled up and you're hugging and hands are roaming, not only are you defiling her or him, but the ultimate question is, because God sees all and God knows all, what does he think about the situation? How could I do such a thing and hurt his heart? I think it's a thing that has kept me over the years. You know, married for 13 years, leadership positions, business owner. It's not without temptation, but I love my wife deeply, but I love God more.
Yes.
And because I love him more, my wife is a direct benefit, a beneficiary of my love for him. He gives me the ability to provide and protect because he's providing and protecting me. So I say all that to say, you're young now, but you won't always be. You're single now, but I believe you won't always be. So the question is, are you thinking with the end in mind? Are you thinking with the end game of saying, if and when I choose to get married? Because marriage, I pray that for each and every one of you. But for some of you, you might be like Paul, and God may be calling you to dedicate a life of singleness for his glory. And don't get me wrong, that could be a phenomenal lifestyle, but it ain't for everybody. And you gotta know that. If God ain't called you to be single, and you trying to be single, you dealing a whole life of frustration for no reason. But I say all that to say, if and when that future spouse comes, have you made your list? Do they measure up? And it's okay to say, hey, you're a good young man, you're a nice young lady, but, you know, I can count on one hand literally all the young ladies I've ever dated, because at 12, my youth pastor made me write a list. So therefore, every girl that was just cute, I was like, yeah, you cute, but I got some more stuff on this list. You know? But if there's no list, you're gonna go straight for cute. If there's no list, you're gonna go straight for, oh, he bugged. He got money, he got a nice car, and I'm tired of standing at the bus stop. Right? So, can we be real?
Yeah.
So, if you're not careful, you're settled for anything if you don't know what you're shooting for. And once again, when it comes back, part of our company, we have our own apparel line. And one of the shirts we have is called "The Cycle Ends With Me." Each of you sitting here today are viewing purity from a different lens, from a different perspective. Some of you are saying, you know what? I come from a lineage of people being pure. Even though that's becoming more and more rare with each passing day. But if that's your story, praise God. But I believe for many of you, you've seen the brokenness that comes from not being pure. You've seen the brokenness that comes from not having a list, from not having a plan. You know, I believe in my heart that each and every young man in here is husband material. You can be a phenomenal husband one day. You will be a phenomenal father one day. I speak that over you.
Amen. Yes.
You will not be anybody's baby daddy.
Amen. Yes.
You will be a husband. You will be a father.
Yes.
Prayerfully of one woman.
Amen.
I speak that. Ladies, you are not anybody's baby mom. Now don't get me wrong, if you've made mistakes and are with child, or you've made mistakes and you're not a virgin, once again, God can and will restore. But just like we signed off on the purity pledges, it starts today. Today is a new day of refreshment, a new day of restorement, a new day of saying, I'm a new creature, as the word says. Old things have passed away, and behold, all things are now new. God can and wants to desperately restore because you're like his trophy case. You're his trophy piece. You're his masterpiece. Psalms 139 said he knit you in your mother's womb because he had a plan for you. He has a plan for you. And Satan desperately wants to destroy that plan. Satan wants to desperately destroy your testimony before it ever gets started. But we know that he's defeated. Amen. So, as we get ready to conclude this conference and conclude this session, just know that you have potential more than you even ever understand at this season in your life. And the enemy will love to hinder you and break you so you never have a chance to become whole. But whatever generational curse is standing in your way, you can break it. You can shatter it. You can shatter that stereotype. You can be what you've never seen. If you've never seen a two-parent household, then determine in your heart that it will start with you. If all your friends come from brokenness, always say, fight for your children's children.
Yeah.
Let that be your motivation to say, you know what? I might only see dysfunction right now, but my children will never know of it.
Yes, God.
Amen.
I may only see brokenness right now, but my grandchildren will only tell the story of what grandpa did, of what grandma did. And the day that they declare it stops here. Divorce stops here.
Amen.
Domestic violence stops here.
That's right.
All the other issues that are coming against you can stop today. So I have a gift for everybody. You can take one and pass it around. And it's just a bracelet that says #breaking the cycle and our company name on it. I wear this every day because I know that God is using me, whether at work. I'm blessed to be the first ever African-American administrator in the history of Plainfield North. So therefore, I wear that with pride because he's created me for such a day and time as this. To let my light shine both in the secular realm at work and in my community. So therefore, when people see me in the suit and tie every day, that might not be their norm, but they can say, because I watched Mr. Weathersby for 40 years, I now know it's a possibility. So the sky's the limit for what God wants to use you to do, and how God wants to use you to not only break your cycle, but to be that shining example for somebody else. So once again, you can follow me at Lead One LLC. If you forget, just turn over your bracelet. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. A lot of times I'm posting videos, inspirational quotes, just things that God is putting on my heart to encourage the next generation. A lot of my speaking engagements, videos, things of that nature are on our website. If you go to our webpage, thelead1movement.com, we have our shirts, we have hats, we have more wristbands, we have pink apparel for the ladies, we have black shirts for the guys, or if women, you want a black hoodie too, you can do that. But just, once again, I'm all about empowering others so that then they can go and do what God has called them to do. So thank you, Gracelyn, for this wonderful opportunity. Let's give her a hand clap.
Thank
And once again, I know each of you have been taking notes, and as an educator, that does my heart well to see people writing things down. But don't be afraid to reach out to us via social media. Don't be afraid to reach out to us. And the men of the church. When the doors of that church opened, she was like, you know, it was in me to say, I know I'm not going to make it in this environment. I need some other men. God gave me that wisdom at an early age, but a lot of times mothers are hanging on so tight that they're not willing or knowledgeable enough to say, I got to get some other men in my boy's life, even outside of their father. Because as a principal, it's funny how many times I'll sit down with a parent and they'll say, I've been saying the same thing. You said it once, and the light bulb came on. Sometimes they just need somebody else to say it. And you got to be strategic enough to put him in a situation where other people can say what you're trying to say. Other men in particular.
How do I get involved in what you're doing? I think it's wonderful what you're doing, and I wish that when I was growing up, that we had something in place to tell me, hold on, you're special, you know, because I didn't have that. So how do I get involved in what you're doing?
Well, thank you for asking. Thank you for that compliment. I appreciate it. You can, like the free 4-week course I talked about, so you can follow me on social media at Unique Utterances. I can have my mom write something out, write that out for you. And I'll have more conferences, so there's one coming up in the summer. I think it will be like a part 2 type of thing, and we'll dig even deeper, you know, to the things that we weren't able to get to today. So yeah, there will be another conference and the 4-week course, and you know, through my mailing list, if you sign up for that, you can get all the updates. I'm coming out with a blog. I have a YouTube channel, so you can kind of keep in touch with all of that I do on social media.
Yeah, keep doing what you're doing. It's needed. It's definitely needed.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
I feel like one of the guys have a question. Y'all just quiet. I know you have one. What's your
Actually, I've been trying to think of one.
Okay.
I was trying to think of a question.
Miss Tierra, though, I feel like you have something
Yo,
else
I-
that you
you're
can
gonna
that
let
you can
stand
say.
here, right? You still a virgin, Josh?
Mm-hmm. I know. I'm sorry. Were you asking a question?
I was asking.
You were making a statement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You Nate? What about you?
Stop her. Well, guys, if you don't have any comments, then I know maybe no questions. Any comments, concerns, anything? Yes, Miss Kim.
I have comments, a lot of them. Gracelyn, I thank you so much for being obedient to God as far as this vision that you have, and it's gonna be way bigger than this, of course, you know that, right? Get ready for it, it's so exciting. When I was sitting here, I just saw so many schools adopting this. I mean, you already have the pop tribe, and I was just looking, I was just like, this is like awesome. And of course, I saw different ways that the young people, you know, express their way of being a part of the pop tribe by skits, dances, all kinds of stuff. You know, I'm seeing it already. I'm just sitting there just like, yes, this is gonna be great. So it's gonna be bigger. That just let me know. So I'm excited for you. Two, the reason why I brought my daughter is because I wanted the cycle to stop with us. Before I married my husband, there were some things that were in his bloodline I wasn't aware of, and he wasn't as well. And it was well into our marriage that it manifested through our marriage and through our kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, I knew when we were dating, God told me that he was clear when we were supposed to be married. He spoke to me clearly, but he told me the growth that we had to go through. I had no idea. And within that growth, it was a lot of sexual impurity within the bloodline. And I was just like, this has to stop.
Yeah.
And I was like, how is it gonna stop? And I was like, exposure early. Exposure early. And I was like, this is amazing to stop some things that his, if I could only tell you some of the things that have already been manifested in my home alone. Oh my goodness gracious. It's been a nightmare. It's been a nightmare. And I was just like, it has to stop.
Yeah.
She was exposed to some things early. Some of I have two older stepchildren. They were exposed to things, and some things that we couldn't even stop. And, you know, it was just bananas. So I was just like, when I saw that the cycle ends with me, I was like, oh my goodness, that is my theme.
Yeah.
It is my, I don't know.
And then you gotta get some apparel. Rep it.
All right, if you are, I will do it. I'm so big with it. I'm so big with it. So excited about this whole movement, what God is doing. I mean, all three of you are phenomenal speakers. You came from a pure place, a place of, I mean, you could tell that you went through a process. Especially you, my dear. Yeah, you went through that process, yes. So just to see God's manifestation over you right now, you can tell, hey, you're sold, you're ready, and now you can truly speak from a place to set other people free. So I'm so excited for all three of you.
Amen, amen, amen.
And you continue to speak that over your household.
Absolutely.
Continue to free, it's in your tongue.
Yeah.
Speak that over your house. Free your house, walk through your house, touch things,
Oh,
anoint things,
yes.
Speak it.
Absolutely.
It's in your tongue.
Yeah.
You do have that authority as a wife. What I'm learning is, like he was saying about husbands with thermostat, we are the thermostats of our homes. We have authority of the temperament of our homes. That's why God put it on us to give a burden for us for the home. The husbands, they guard, they protect. Wives, if you look at Eve, even though people, oh, she did this, we have the upper hand, because if you look at Eve, she spotted the enemy first. It wasn't Adam, it was the wife. So you spot the enemy first. So you, like she said, speak that over your home. You have authority to say, you're not coming in here with whatever's going on. You're not doing this. You have authority to shift the atmosphere in your home. So I can tell that you are a woman that prays. You are a woman that sees God. He shows you things. You have a prophetic gifting. Use that to your advantage. If you're a prophetic intercessor, you can begin to ask God, show me what it is that Satan has planned. You have the upper hand. Satan works with smoke and mirrors.
Yes,
So what he
yes.
does, he'll blow things up to make them seem bigger than what they are, but you remind him that my God is bigger than that. So it doesn't matter. So I did come from, like you said, bloodline curses. My mom was introduced to pornography at a very young age. So I was introduced to pornography at a very young age. I didn't know why I even wanted to watch it at times, but it was appetites that was passed down. I'll never forget, my dad is a smoker. I've never smoked in my life. But I was so stressed out to the point one time that I started craving a cigarette. I've never smoked. I can tell you what nicotine tastes like because Satan wanted me to get that bad. I've never smoked in my life, and I said, no, I'm not doing that. And he tried to allure me with other things that he tried my parents with alcoholism and same-sex attractions, or you want to do this. So when I say that I've been through it, I've been through it. So. But I had to come to the conclusion too that my God is bigger. I have authority.
Yeah.
You being a wife, you have authority over your home. Like how we said with Eve, we can condemn her all we want, but she saw the enemy first. You have the upper hand of that, so use it.
Amen.
I was gonna say, when you spoke about purity, I always thought that purity was just like sex, like you're not supposed to have sex until marriage. I just thought it was always that. But when you spoke about having a pure heart, I kind of felt like it related to me because my mom, she always taught me have a kind heart and try to help as many people as you can. It doesn't matter, you don't judge people about that's like one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone just judges you off bat when they don't know you, or like when somebody brag on what they have and like they just be like, oh, my mom, like I wear this and your mom can't afford that. Like it irritates me. And my mom, she always taught me to be kind and be respectful to adults, and I just always thought purity was just like all about like you're not supposed to have sex. I never knew that purity was like having a kind heart, and I feel like that kind of related to me.
Amen.
Thank you for sharing. And that's why it's called purity on purpose, because it's not strictly just waiting until marriage to have sex, but it's about the heart before. It's about becoming whole before, becoming a whole woman. So if you have struggles in your life now, break the cycle and get that fixed. begin in cleaning your heart now while you're young and while you are still learning. We're single for a reason. Our single seasons are probably the most important because God is preparing us for that person that is going to pursue us. So we have to be ready for that. We can't be looking any type of way and miss out on our blessing. Yeah. And so I think that's so good. I'm so glad that it related to you because being kind to people, just our everyday actions, just pay attention to what you're doing because you have so much value in you, inside of you, that we miss it every day. We're just like, oh no, I'm just 1 in a million. No, you're 1,000,001. There's so much in you. There's so much that God wants to do with you. He wants to enlarge your territory and He wants the best for you. So make sure that every single day you tell yourself, you look at that pledge every day and say, okay, God, what do you want to do with me today? I may not think you're real. I may not know everything about you, but help me. Help me to better my heart. Help me to become pure in what you need me to become pure in so I can help somebody else, so I can serve somebody else. And continue to pray, continue to read your word, because that definitely helps too. I mean, I'm still working on it myself. Like I don't read the word every day, but I need to get to that point where I can like really dwell on what the word of God says. And like we're all growing every single day and we're all striving toward a whole lifestyle, or hopefully we are. And so I just encourage you to allow God, even when you're in your nights and when you're crying and when you have those hard times, just dwell on the word of God, dwell on what He says. He said that if you take delight in Him, then He will give you the desires of your heart. And that means that He will give you what you desire. And sometimes we don't even know what we desire. My desires changed when God stepped into my life. My desire was sex. My desire was pornography. My desire was masturbation. It was all of those things, but it changed and it altered when God stepped in. And now my desire is just to be pure. Amen. It's just to speak into people's lives. And so just remember that, and just remember to have a clean and pure heart. I'm so glad that it touched you.
Amen.
All right.
Any other questions? Did you think of one yet?
No. But I do agree with my cousin on what she said, because I've been to a program like this before that they had at my school, but they didn't really go in depth with talking about purity and heart and soul. They just more so did it on, you should like wait till you're married before you can start this, and that's what it was. So then when I sat in here, because my first thought was like, I'm not going to go to that. I already know that. I've been to one of these before. But then I said, you never know, because it might be something new. And so I'm actually glad I did decide to do
it. And you're so intelligent. Like, let me tell you that. You have so much intelligence in you that you need to share with the world. And so that's so inspiring that, like, you came and you got a whole different outlook, because I remember thinking when I was planning this conference, I'm like, when I was in high school, we were in, like, sex ed or something, what's it called? Yeah, something like that. And they never talked about this, so they just talked about safe sex. So they're giving room for you to go have sex. Like
they telling you to do it.
Yeah, they're like, here's some condoms, go do it. And it's like, no, we have to break that. We can't give the enemy space, to get into our lives and get into our souls, because once we do that, he can use us, and it's just bad after that. So I'm so glad that you were inspired as well.
It's so funny. My pastor always says that condoms do not protect you against the soul ties. Like safe sex is married sex within the parameters of marriage. That's safe sex. If you go anything outside of that, it's not. So condoms cannot protect you from soul ties.
Right.
Emotional
babies and all this other stuff. The things that it eats away at in your heart, like condoms can't save you from that.
Yeah.
That's good. Anything else? We are going to wrap up. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just filming and talking at the same time. I'm like, what am I doing? So, Gracelyn, you can go ahead and wrap it up, sweetie.
All right, guys. Thank you for coming again. Y'all don't understand. I didn't know, like, God was going to do this much with me, and I'm just so excited that I chose to obey Him. Amen. And I just encourage you guys to continue to obey Him in your everyday life, like even today as you're going home, as you're on your ride home. Just think about how you can be better, a better person at heart, and just do it. Like, it doesn't take much. Just do it, and just try it, and that's all you need to do. And put your plaque up somewhere where you can see it every day, so you can be reminded that this thing is for a purpose. Like my ring here, I look at it and I put it on every day, like, okay, Lord, I'm yours. I'm yours forever, but more now than even when I'm married, because then my husband is going to be like my helpmeet and stuff. But make sure you remember this, you try and you dedicate your life to purity.
Amen.
So, yay.
Amen. Thank you.